from the studios of Farm Journal Broadcast.
Coming up on Ag Day, retaliation concerns are rising on talks about tariffs. The North Carolina hog industry watching pending court cases around emissions. In agribusiness, selling wheat you may not grow.
There's some big question, how good is the crop? Do they have a crop?
Fresh beef sales getting fresh attention from McDonald's, and the World Cheese Competition sees new competitors.
Ag Day, brought to you by the Chevy Silverado, the most dependable, longest-lasting full-size pickups on the road.
Good morning, I'm Clint Griffiths. Even amid calls of concern from industry and his own cabinet, the president holding firm to his plans for new metal tariff on imports to the U.S. President Trump's economic advisor, Gary Cohn, stepping down over the proposed tariff plan. Other countries continuing to speak out against the move, even as the president is yet to officially implement the measure. Now, the EU releasing its list of retaliatory tariffs if the administration hits go. While it already listed Harley-Davidson motorcycles, Levi's, and Kentucky bourbon, EU leaders now adding peanut butter, cranberries, orange juice, and apples to the list. Now, how far a potential trade war does or doesn't go is still anyone's guess.
We expect that the president will sign something by the end of the week, and there are potential carve-outs for Mexico and Canada based on national security, and possibly other countries as well based on that process. That would be a case-by-case and country-by-country basis, but it would be determined whether or not there is a national security exemption.
Some analysts say tariffs are a concern in the long run, but in the short term, China still has to buy products. The Secretary of Agriculture, Sonny Perdue, speaking about the potential of tariffs at a luncheon with the Wall Street Journal. Perdue says there's probably some legitimate anxiety from the ag sector over trade issues. He says agriculture is rightfully concerned and anxious over retaliatory measures. However, the secretary seemed to hint it could help NAFTA negotiations to wrap up more quickly. The president continuing to push forward on trade reforms. Early Wednesday, President Trump tweeting about trade deficits with China. He says, quote, China has been asked to develop a plan for a $1 billion reduction in their massive trade deficit with the United States. Our relationship with China has been a very good one, and we look forward to seeing what ideas they come back with. We must act soon. Now, also in Washington, the now former Iowa Agriculture Secretary Bill Northey officially on the job at USDA. The new Undersecretary for Farm Production and Conservation will lead the FSA, the NRCS, and the Risk Management Agency. He was sworn in by Secretary Perdue Tuesday night in Iowa. Northey telling the Des Moines Register will want to make sure that the Farm Bill works for producers out in the countryside. A series of federal trials are set to begin next month in Raleigh, North Carolina. The litigation stems from complaints about emissions from hog operations. And those eventual decisions could alter the operations of the state's multi-billion-dollar industry. This week, attorneys from both sides filed motions regarding specific pieces of evidence and testimony. Alan Breed from the Associated Press reports.
Terry Pap Adams likes to tinker with cars outside his Willard, North Carolina home. But there are days when he just can't stomach it.
I mean, it ain't just a smell, funky smell. It's something that you can't tolerate. You stay out here, you got to get away from it.
He's talking about hog waste, like this, recently sprayed on a farm in neighboring Duplin County. All across North Carolina, this wastewater, laced with feces and urine, is applied directly to crops as fertilizer. But Adams says it doesn't just stay on the fields.
When the wind is right, you get it. It's like a mist. When they spray that stuff, every time that thing hit like that, it throws a mist off. They be right pink with hog blood and manure and all that stuff.
Adams and others say the pungent odors, flies, and dust from these massive operations have made their lives miserable. That's why about 500 North Carolina residents are suing a subsidiary of Smithfield Foods, the world's largest pork producer. There are more than 9 million hogs in the Tar Heel state, producing an estimated 9.5 billion gallons of waste a year. All that waste goes into large open-air lagoons that give off ammonia, hydrogen sulfide, and other irritants.
Your heart rate increases, you have difficulty breathing, you get phlegm in your throat, your eyes start running, you're choking.
Attorneys say researchers found pig fecal DNA on more than a dozen plaintiffs' homes, and in one case, inside a woman's kitchen, even though the home is shielded by trees planted by the hog farm.
Man's home is his castle. That's where we retreat at the end of the day. That's where we should have our moment of respite.
The state is negotiating with watchdog groups, including Waterkeeper Alliance, to resolve complaints of environmental racism in its handling of the swine waste disposal permitting program. Last year, the U.S. Environmental Protection Agency sent the state a letter of concern about the concentration of industrial hog farms in minority communities. Smithfield says more than 80% of these operations are family farms, and that race has nothing to do with where its hogs are raised. In a statement, Smithfield said it expects its growers to comply with the law and that the current system protects the environment and farm neighbors. Hogs are a $2.3 billion industry in North Carolina, but there are just 14 inspectors to police the 2,000-plus feeding operations, including enforcing the strict rules on when and how much to spray. Everett Murphy says hogs and people can coexist.
So wean to finish operation, they're about 3 weeks old when we get them, weighing about 15 pounds.
Murphy's operation in Farmville churns out 5,700 hogs a year for Smithfield. His center pivot irrigation system sprays downward, minimizing drift.
I've never had a complaint from a neighbor, never.
Murphy says his industry is already heavily regulated. He says farmers provide abundant, cheap food.
Yeah, I'm proud to be a hog farmer. It's what I've done all my life, feeding America.
Back in Duplin County, plaintiff Elsie Herring says she knows farmers have it tough, but she doesn't think neighbors should have to suffer as well.
What gives one human being the right to blow animal waste on other human beings?
A federal judge has scheduled the first test cases for trial in April. Alan Breed, Associated Press, Wallace, North Carolina.
Lawsuits were filed by more than 500 neighbors of those hog operations, most of which are in the southeast region of the state. The judge deciding the first trial will involve 8 to 10 plaintiffs. Subsequent trials will be held once a month until all of the cases are decided. Dozens of wildfires are erupting in Kansas and Nebraska. So far, about 50 fires have burned in Kansas alone, covering about 40 square miles. Now, this footage was captured near Hays, Kansas, by a Kansas Highway Patrol officer. He goes by the Twitter handle Trooper Todd. Black Hawk helicopters were dispatched in several locations to drop water on those fires. And in Nebraska, a man suffering from severe burns was found crawling in a farm field near the town of McCook. 50-mile-an-hour wind gusts whipped flames through that area. He was taken to a burn center. Cindy Clausen continues our look at weather in today's crop comments. Cindy.
Good morning, Clinton. We're taking you to Platte Valley, Nebraska, where 17-year-old Garrett Laub is helping his parents get this little sweetheart out of the corn stalks and to his mama. Garrett decided to skip his junior year spring sports recognition night in order to help. And John McClure over in Stanford, Kansas says conditions are dry. He's baling CRP grass to keep his livestock fed. John says winter wheat conditions are deteriorating. A new U.S. drought monitor will be released later on today. Here's a look at our wind speed forecast. Looks like the highest winds today in the eastern part of the country for the most part. Some over in the Great Lakes, and of course with the nor'easter over in the northeast, we've got some windy conditions that'll start later on today in the Pacific Northwest with a system coming onshore there. That's a look at your national forecast. Now here are some hometown temps.
Your next piece of equipment is on MachineryPete.com. Search equipment from dealerships across the country to find what you're looking for. Only on MachineryPete.com.
You saw the dryness of the wheat crop in the Southern Plains. We'll talk about selling strategies for a crop you aren't sure will make it. That's next in analysis. And later in Drovers TV, we look at the changing menu of McDonald's and hear how they could impact fresh beef demand.
With a uniquely powerful formulation of proven ingredients, Resicor corn herbicide gives you extraordinary power.
Who wants dessert?
At least when it comes to weeds.
Mark Gold, top third, our guest today. Mark, as we look at these wheat markets, I think there's just a lot of uncertainty from producers on whether or not they're going to have a crop. And the other side of that is, well, prices are better. What do I do about it?
Right. Well, certainly in Oklahoma and Kansas, even parts of Nebraska, there's some big question: how good is the crop? Do they have a crop? And it's not a wheat crop if we don't kill it a couple of times before harvest. But this one looks a little bit more serious than some of the other ones. And we still have, possible frost coming up, other things that could affect the market. but we've got this nice rally caused by the fund short covering. We've got new crop prices at good levels. What do you do if you're not sure if you've got the crop? And this is the perfect opportunity to buy a put option. The put doesn't commit you to selling grain. It puts a floor in on the grain. If you know you don't have the crop, you can always sell that put off, recapture some of that premium back. But in the meantime, if we come in, as we have so many times, where 10 bushel wheat turns into 50 bushel wheat by the end of the growing season, and all of a sudden the market falls out of bed, you've got that protection. If it doesn't and you don't have the crop, okay, you can sell off the put and walk away from it.
Yeah.
So I believe the put is an invaluable tool, particularly when you're not sure that you've got the crop out there, but want to protect a nice rally.
Yeah, and I think that's what it comes down to, right, is being able to take advantage in some way of the opportunities that we get. And you say this all the time, Mark, and I firmly believe it, that we may just get one opportunity this year.
This year may be a little bit different. We're getting an early opportunity here in February. Take advantage of it. If we get another one in May or June, take advantage of it. If we get another one in July, take advantage of it. You know, you always have more grain to sell out there. We know how farmers are. So we want to look at these opportunities, take advantage of them. The funds have given us a great opportunity here. And as I've said 100 times, take advantage of the funds before they take advantage of you.
All right, appreciate it, Mark. Thanks so much. Yeah, we'll be back with more Ag Day here in just a minute.
For a special report on the grain markets, call toll-free at 877-TT-HEDGE. That's 877-884-3343.
Uh-oh. Welcome back to Ag Day here with Cindy Clausen. Cindy, as we look at the storms on the map, it's kind of up in the corners, northeast, northwest.
It really is, and there's not a whole lot going on in between. Let's take a look. As we look in the northeast, we've still got that nor'easter that's going to be bringing some heavy snow there. We got a secondary low still hanging out over the Great Lakes, so look for some snowfall even into the central Great Lakes, but most of it is going to be over in the northeast. We have more activity reaching the west coast today, so we're going to be looking for some rain and some upper elevation snow there. In the middle, high pressure in control for most of us, and so we're going to be seeing some drier conditions continuing there. As we get into overnight into Friday morning, we'll continue to see the snow in the northeast, rain and snow in the northwest, but we will see some activity, some rain and higher elevation snow even down into central and southern California, while we see those dry conditions continuing, especially across the southern plains and into the Gulf Coast states. All right, heading through the day on Friday, more of the same, snow from the northeast. We do have a stationary front. We'll start to see perhaps a little bit of activity along that, but again, it's going to be few and far between. All right, here's a look then at your precipitation estimate, and we're obviously going to see the most in the northeast where we have that nor'easter, and we're going to be seeing some rain and snow on the west coast. That's going to be our two areas of focus over the next couple of days. As far as snowfall, that snow will be spreading actually to the northwest as that low kind of retrogrades, and so you'll be seeing actually a lot of snow. This is going to be a big deal for the northeast once again, mainly higher elevation snow in the Pacific Northwest. Temperature wise, we're seeing a lot of 20s and 30s. We've got that trough in the eastern part of the country, so cooler than normal temperatures in the east. We do see some warmer temperatures down south. Overnight, we're going to be looking at those temperatures into the teens. That's a little bit warmer than yesterday morning, but still on the cool side for a lot of the eastern part of the country. Heading into tomorrow, we don't see a huge difference in temperatures, but we do warm it up just a little bit in the northeast, and we do cool it down just a little bit in the northwest with that added rain and snow. Taking a look at the jet stream, there's that big trough in the eastern part of the country. That will continue to translate to the east, but we see another trough kind of digging in, reinforcing that as we get into the weekend, while a big ridge out west is going to keep things warm for the most part. But watch as we see another trough towards the end of the week starting to move into the west coast. That's a look at your national forecast. Now let's check out the weather where you live. Napa Vine, Washington, breezy and cooler today with some rain expected, high of 51 degrees. Mostly sunny in Oakland, Nebraska, a little warmer with a high of 34. And Tunnel Springs, Alabama, lots of sunshine with a high of 60.
We'll look at fresh beef demand when we come back on our Drovers TV report. Plus, the world's best cheesemakers are squaring off, or would it be wedging off, in Wisconsin?
Ag Day Brought to you by new Delaro fungicide for corn and soybeans. Achieve personal best yields.
Despite growth in the plant-based protein sector, there's still a strong demand for real beef. New research from a custom marketing agency shows 18% of shoppers are buying more fresh meat versus last year, and they're seeing a big jump in sales of natural or organic meat. The company says protein continues to drive grocery store purchases. Acosta's data showing increasing sales of both fresh meat and plant-based alternatives.
18% of respondents said they are buying more fresh meat this year, including 41% of millennials, more than all generations of beef combined. Beef and chicken still dominate, making 70% of all fresh meat sold. Acosta's research also shows plant-based protein sales grew 11% last year, and that 71% of shoppers who bought plant-based meat alternatives also eat meat. McDonald's hopes the popularity of fresh meat carries over to fast food and said it is serving quarter pounders with fresh beef rather than frozen patties at about a quarter of its restaurants. McDonald's says it will roll out fresh beef quarter pounders to most of its 14,000 U.S. restaurants by May.
Thanks, Greg. Taking a closer look now, McDonald's switched to fresh beef from frozen in their quarter pounders. The restaurant has relied on frozen patties since the 1970s. With the switch, workers will cook up the fresh beef on a grill when the burger is ordered. Mickey D's is also using fresh beef on its signature crafted burgers, but the Big Mac and other burgers will still be made with frozen beef. The company trying to shed its junk food image.
We've been able to change perceptions not only around our burgers, but on our overall menu and brand as well.
If you look at the operational aspect of bringing in fresh beef, it's really challenging, especially for a restaurant chain as large as McDonald's, $37 billion in total sales. And so it's certainly a lot easier for small players to do fresh beef. The operational and logistic aspects of bringing fresh beef in and really the way that the McDonald's kitchens have been designed over time just really lead to kind of a wholesale operational mindset change.
McDonald's has been running test trials for 2 years in Dallas and Tulsa. In addition to the burger switch, McDonald's has also removed artificial preservatives from chicken nuggets. It will also be replacing the apple juice in Happy Meals with one that contains less sugar. All right, when we come back, one of the best cheeses you never heard of is getting attention in the country's next.
AgDay, brought to you by Corvus, the #1 pre-emergence corn herbicide. In the country, sponsored by Kubota. Tractors, hay tools, utility vehicles, mowers, and more. Visit KubotaUSA.com today.
Are you familiar with the variety of cheese called paneer? If not, you better get used to it. It's grabbing quite a bit of attention at the World Championship Cheese Contest now underway in Madison, Wisconsin. Paneer is a longtime favorite in Indian cuisine. This is the first year it's been judged at the World Cheese Championships, which is held every other year. Organizers say there are a record number of entries, more than 3,400. Participation is up 15% from 2016. Now there are 121 classes of dairy products.
Our contest changes just as consumer preferences do. In the marketplace, you're seeing growth in international cheeses, things like paneer.
I hope it's a bit of a wake-up call to those of us who may not have grown up with paneer. That's a shame. Paneer is a great cheese and it makes all manner of dishes feasible.
According to the Wisconsin Milk Marketing Board, the amount of paneer sold nationwide doubled from 2013 to 2017, and the competition includes entries from 26 nations. The winners will be announced later tonight. And one more thing before we go. On Tuesday, we told you about a 3D printer that's being used at Ohio State Wexner Medical Center. We inadvertently said they were creating replacement aortic valves for the heart. That's not quite the case. Instead, they're making replicas. By doing so, doctors are able to predict how specific patients might respond to each valve type by connecting it to a heart simulator. The replicas do not ever go inside the heart. Our apologies there. That's all the time we have this morning. We're sure glad you tuned in. Spent part of your day with us. From all of us here at AgDay, I'm Clinton Griffiths. Have a great day.
AgDay, brought to you by Ram Commercial, America's longest-lasting heavy-duty pickups.